Hey guys, Alex here for episode number 6 of Sports the Nemo Way, which is a new kind of episode for us and you. A double player episode with Charles Oakley and Mark Jackson being defended by Ray, being the only one of us to have either one of them on his list. And after he makes his case, Wade, Drew, Doug, and I will come back with our own cases of why he doesn't, or they don't, deserve to be on the list. That being said, let's start off with Charles Oakley and what his career looked like. The 6'8", 225-pound power forward who played for the Chicago Bulls, New York Knicks, Toronto Raptors, Washington Wizards, and Houston Rockets, never winning a title or an MVP award. He is a one-time All-Star, 0-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defense, playing 19 years in the league after being taken with the 9th pick in the draft, with career averages of 9, 9, and 2 on 47% shooting. So, Ray, the ball's in your court. What do you have for us?
Okay. So before I get started on my spiel here, I just want to ask one question. What is the one thing that holds Charles Oakley back from being a champ?
Horace Grant.
That's who
Anybody?
replaced him and won
Bill
championships.
Cartwright, the guy he was traded for.
Exactly. The trade that sent him to New York.
Oh, Horace Grant was already there. My bad.
Right.
My bad.
So think about that right now.
I'm thinking about it because it's in my case of why he's not very good.
Oh, okay. Well, let me do my spiel here. Let me get started. Let's see. He was a great defender, great rebounder, the definition of an enforcer. He had a good offensive game that could have been better if he wouldn't get in so many fights. One of the most hardworking blue-collar athletes, a shade under averaging a double-double for his career. Like the rest of my list that I have, I like a rough and hardworking player on my team. Because if you're not working hard to win, then why even play? What's the point of riding the bench and calling yourself a champion? This man worked harder than half the NBA and still didn't get titles like some of those soft-ass bitches. Kevin Love, J.R. Smith. He led the league in rebounds in 2 straight seasons. He is 22nd on the all-time rebounds list. He is 32nd in minutes played, 65th in steals, and not only has he got ejected from a game while playing, he also got ejected while watching a Knicks game. He's also a Knicks legend for life. So there's my opening statement. Go ahead, guys. Rip me apart.
Well, I have a question. Did you ever watch Oakley play, Drew?
Just in a little bit in The Last Dance. That's about it. I just know he was Michael's protector.
Enforcer, yes.
Bodyguard.
Okay, so I'll stick with you, Drew. What do you know about Charles Oakley, or what do you have to say about Charles Oakley?
I just know that he's a very physical player, and I know he got traded around a lot. He was traded right before Michael and all them starters. I don't know if that was his fault or what went on there, but
He was he their second best player before he got traded?
I mean, Scotty was there.
Scotty wasn't very good for the first couple of years. I'm asking. I'm not sitting here saying that. I'm saying
I don't think.
Charles Oakley was probably their second best player before he got traded.
I don't know.
Scotty was a little until about year 3, 4.
Okay, let me go into my spiel.
I'm
then, because
asking.
because
I'm asking.
we're touching on it, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna go ahead and go
All
into
right,
it.
go ahead.
I was gonna let you guys bounce around for a minute, but I'm just gonna go into this. This is actually in the middle of my argument, but since we're talking about it, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's no secret the Bulls traded Charles Oakley to the Knicks for a washed-up Bill Cartwright, somebody who was majorly on the downside of his career. But the reason they wanted to trade Charles Oakley is they were tired of having somebody who stood in the paint all day and allowing somebody to double team Michael every time he went to the rim and couldn't score when he got the ball. So they traded for Cartwright, who wasn't a stiff on offense, and then immediately won 3 straight titles. I don't know if it, obviously I'm not saying he's the 100% the reason, but I don't think it's a coincidence either that they're like, hey buddy, you get out of the way. Okay, we'll just win 3 straight titles now. Because it's not like Bill Cartwright was good. He could just score when he was past the ball.
But see, I don't understand that logic because then 5 years later they pick up Dennis Rodman and all he did was he the offensive stiff and stayed in the paint. So what
Yeah.
does that make? That doesn't
But
make any sense.
as Wade said, by that point, years like what 5-6 years later, Scotty was a superstar.
I mean, yeah.
So things had changed. I mean, and Michael was still Michael.
Well, I don't want to again fight against Alex when we're supposed to be ganging up on Ray, but they started winning championships because Scottie Pippen started playing better. That's my opinion.
That and I finally got over the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys. That Michael probably he finally started lifting a little bit more and started doing that.
So let me ask you this:
But Bill Cartwright
Was-
actually wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
Was Oakley even the best power forward on his team?
Yeah.
Are you talking about with Horace Grant?
Yeah, with Horace Grant, the
Ah,
superior player.
I would go with Horace Grant. Yeah.
No, I would still go with Oakley.
I think Grant was probably a more balanced player. I mean, I look at Charles Oakley kind of like an old hockey enforcer.
Yes.
That's
He was
true.
there to protect Michael Jordan.
He was a
And
good
when they
rebounder.
still couldn't get by Detroit, they said, we got to come up with a different plan. And, I mean, I like Charles, and he was very physical. He was a tough guy. He was fun to watch.
He's like the first person
He was entertaining.
people bring up when they talk about toughness. Charles Oakley's the first name that comes
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
guys-
he was
guys-
tough.
People are
Guys
scared
talk
of
about-
Charles Oakley.
Guys talk about Oakley and the Bad Boy Pistons. Like
Yeah.
that's like
Right.
the first guys
That's
to come to
like,
your mind.
you
when
never
talking about
fought
toughness.
Charles Oakley, like, ever.
Yeah. But like you were saying, like, or maybe it was Drew that mentioned that Michael had to gain some weight, get in the weight room, and then you get Oakley out of the lane and let Michael work, and he had to be strong enough to take the hit. But I think Oakley did maybe clog things up some. He wasn't scoring very much, and if you're not going to score, Michael wanted you out of the way.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, this is kind of a somewhat of a question and somewhat of a statement. Didn't Bill Cartwright kind of stay in the lane? He didn't do too much, did he? I think his career high with the Bulls was like 12 points a game.
He had a jump shot.
He could shoot a little bit.
Yeah, not like today's big man where you extend out, but he
Yeah.
could stand outside the paint and catch and
Like, do a little
knock down.
mid-range.
Do a little
Yeah, more of a
12-footer, yeah.
mid-range.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
more that was,
Little
well, that was
12-footer.
quite a bit bigger back then, the mid-range. And
Yeah.
three wasn't quite as
Spread,
bad.
spread it a little bit.
Absolutely.
But Charles Oakley, when he got to the Knicks, he had a jump shot as well.
Yeah, Oakley. When you asked him to score, his numbers went up slightly, but then he started getting really inefficient. You can't have big men shooting 40% from the field.
I don't think scoring was ever his specialty.
I don't think so either. Okay, I'll just read what I got over here and get it over with. So I guess my first question is, and you're going to hear this again later. If you can't, okay, with the NBA Hall of Fame, the knock we hear a lot is they let too many guys in. Most of us have heard that. Charles Oakley's not in the Hall of Fame. So if you're not a Hall of Famer, if you're not one of the 600 greatest players ever, how can you be a top 50 player ever?
I mean, that's fine. But he's also above Rodman on the all-time rebounds list.
He played 19 years in the league.
Yeah.
It's almost like a war of attrition. He's a career triple single. If he was a dominant rebound, he'd average more than 9 rebounds a game for his career.
Does anyone know what Rodman averaged for his career? I'm only asking that because I don't know. Because
I really
Rodman
don't.
for like a 7 years, I think he led the league in rebounds for 7 years straight, and put up like Bill Russell numbers
For his career, Rodman was 13.1
for rebounds.
for rebounds.
Okay, I really didn't know. I was wondering.
Okay, let me read off a couple stats.
But
here.
Rodman also was a bench player for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
True that. Okay, so year 2, Oakley was 13-1. Year 3, 13. Year 4, 10-5. Year 6, 11-9. Year 7, 12-1. And then a couple bad years, and then he went back to 11.9. So, I mean,
He kind of hovered in that 8 to.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, if your game is purely predicated on one end of the floor, which is where Oakley's at, you're a defender, rebounder, you have to be elite. And he wasn't elite at either. He was just good at both. He was he. It's not like you went out there and said, "Oakley, shut that guy down tonight." He went out and did that. He did not. It's not like you went out there and he wasn't Dennis Rodman on the boards,
No.
and he was good at both. He just wasn't elite at both. And when you have no offensive game, then I feel like you got to be elite at something else. And I just don't feel like he did that.
I kind of want to bring. I was kind of waiting for the right opportune moment to bring this up, and I didn't know which player. I was kind of waiting for Rodman, but obviously I can kind of just do it now with Oakley. We're in what, episode 6, correct?
Yeah.
Episode 6. We have very specifically focused in on stats, which I'm not saying stats aren't important. They are important. They show you a lot of what a player does, but there is a lot of stuff that a player can do to make them a very good player that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Yeah, I think Charles Oakley is. I think that's Ray's point. I'm not saying Charles Oakley. I think it's a top 50 player, but I also think he's a player that fits in that category. He did things that don't show up on a stat sheet that are important to a team and helping win a game. I think Dennis Rodman is like the ultimate person that you think of. Like he is like the top of the pyramid who we keep comparing him to. Like Dennis Rodman did so much on a basketball court that didn't involve a stat sheet that it literally drove legends of the game like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson nuts. Like he was just a maniac. And I think we've spent 5 episodes or 6 episodes, whatever it is, continuously talking about stats. Which stats are important. I'm not saying they're not.
And stats are tangible.
Wait, what?
We can see them.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
real.
Some other things are going to be subjective.
No, I'm not. I said they're important. I'm not saying they're not important.
I'm not saying Oakley wasn't a great screen setter. Oakley didn't get in guys' heads, but we can't measure that.
No, but you can sit there and watch a basketball game and see it.
I know, but we're not watching.
And that's what actual other great players want on their team. Okay, I'm going to use.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And every team, ever, especially good teams, need role players who know their role and do the dirty work and do things that the superstars aren't willing to do.
Okay,
but we're not talking about those guys. We're talking about the 50 greatest players of all time, the elite of the elite, the 50 greatest guys that are of the 500 guys that are in the Hall of Fame or are gonna be Hall of Famers. We're talking about the most elite players to ever walk the face of the earth, not role players.
No, that I wasn't necessarily hinting at role players. Okay, like I already said, I don't think Charles Oakley is a top 50 player ever, but I think he falls into what I'm talking about, as he did a lot of stuff that doesn't show up. But for an example, so we can all be on the same page, I'm going to bring up someone that me and Alex just talked about like 2-3 weeks ago. Andrew Wiggins.
You mean the modern day George Gervin?
Oh,
Shout out Mark.
I think we were somewhat joking around with each other, and right now, actually, Andrew Wiggins is playing decent basketball with the Golden State Warriors, but he spent 5-6 years with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I kept joking around with Alex, telling him that, he's trash, like he sucks. And then Alex like, well, he averaged over 20 points a game and shot like 44% or something. And I was like, yeah, I don't care, he sucks. And Alex like, well, you can't average 20 points a game and shoot 44% and suck. And I was like, but when you're talking about someone who actually makes their team better and does the small stuff, kind of like, okay, does it take athleticism and talent to score 20 points a game in the NBA? Yes, it does. So is he talented and athletic? Yes, he is. Can he play a lick of defense in Minnesota? No, he couldn't. Could he read a defense off a pick and roll? No, he could not. In clutch situations, did he take fadeaway 25-footers and airbank them? Yes, he did. Those are not game-winning plays. That's what people considered him almost a complete bust with a max contract because he played basketball terribly, even though he was very talented and very athletic. The only reason I'm not here to argue about Andrew Wiggins. That's not my point. My point would be there are players that do things the right way and do things that don't show up on a stat sheet, like set picks or play help defense or get offensive rebounds. Where you might say, oh, well, he gets 9 rebounds a game. Oh, yeah, but if 4 of them are offensive, That's so much bigger than a defensive rebound. You extend possessions. You learn when to pick and pop, when to pick and roll. You learn how to how to control the tempo of a game for your team's favor. Like, those are all things that don't show up on a stat sheet that players do. And I feel like we spent 5-6 episodes talking about stats. And these are things that you can do on a basketball floor that don't show up on a stat sheet that dictate everything.
Okay, I don't disagree with anything you just said, but I also want to put this disclaimer out there. I wasn't trying to convince Wade that Andrew Wiggins was good.
Oh, yes.
I was just no, I was not. I was trying to convince Wade that he wasn't trash. That's it. I'll end the Andrew Wiggins talk there.
He actually
Now-
has played well with Golden State.
But I agree with your point of there are things that don't show up on the stat sheet, and if you want to talk about those things, I'm here to talk about them. I think there'll be a lot of silence. I think there'll be a lot of he set really good screens, and then we'll all stare at each other. And
I'm just bringing. Okay, you remember when we talked about? Let's see, was it last episode when we talked about Dolph Shays? Was that last episode?
Yeah.
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 It was last
Yeah.
episode.
If it wasn't last episode, it was like 2 ago. Uncle Doug said he just wanted to bring up the conversation of old players against new players.
Right.
I'm just bringing up the conversation that we're going to hit on really hard, probably with other players, especially when we get to the top 10.
Because Wade's going to have to argue for Dennis Rodman. That's why we're leading
That's
this
actually
in.
not where I was hinting, actually, but yes, I will. But that's yeah, I did say he's the top of the pyramid. So yes, me and Ray will probably argue hard for Dennis Rodman.
Oh, yeah.
I have
Oh,
Dennis
yeah.
Rodman on my list.
Andrew.
Yeah, you three have him, Doug and I don't.
But actually, my point is, like, when you get to like the top 10 players of all time, those things are what separate, I think, most of them. One of the kind of oddest things I ever heard, but then it kind of made sense to me once I heard it, was Bill Simmons talk about Michael Jordan's greatest game of all time, which is Michael Jordan. He has all these phenomenal games. And he said his greatest game ever was 1998, when he was older. Scottie Pippen had a hurt back. Rodman was struggling with Karl Malone. And it was in Last Dance. They talked about it a little bit, but then Bill Simmons goes into pure detail about it. And he says, and Michael Jordan shot, I think, like low 40-something%. He shot like 36 times or something like that. I'm off by a little bit. I know I'm not spot on, but he shot a bunch of times, but he was the entire offense that game. But what made him so great was he was putting forth so much effort on defense, and he controlled the entire pace of the game and outmaneuvered John Stockton to control the pace and did everything he wanted and manipulated the game the way he wanted to do, which is also what LeBron James does a lot of times. And those are the things that I'm trying to hint on.
Okay.
Which one, I'm not, obviously, Charles Oakley doesn't handle the ball, so he's not obviously going to do that. I was just trying to bring up the conversation of those things. We're talking about, I think Ray's big point is Charles Oakley does things that aren't going to show up on a stat sheet that make your team better. Am I wrong, Ray?
No, you're absolutely 100% right.
That's my point.
Okay.
That's all. I was just trying to bring it up in the conversation.
if you're going to be an elite role player, which is what Charles Oakley was a role player, you need to win. You need to be Robert Horry. And Charles Oakley never won anything.
And that's true. But just because you get a couple lucky possessions and make a shot doesn't make you an elite role player.
Well, I mean, 7 championships. I think there was a little more than luck there for 7 rings, or
No.
Rodman's 5.
No, I think there was quite a bit of luck. I mean, you have Elijah Wan.
I mean, he was drafted
Duncan
to the
Robinson,
Rockets. Okay,
Kobe
if we want
Shaq.
to call that luck, where he was drafted to, sure. But then he went to the Lakers and won 3 more, and then he went to the Spurs
Kobe.
and won some more.
Kobe,
Tim
Shaq,
Duncan.
Robinson, Ginobili.
Yes, he's not the superstar. That was exactly my point. He was a role
We're
player.
just giving you a hard time. It's fine, Alex.
No, you guys are ganging up on me again.
I
And
just tried
it's
to prove
just-
one point. One point.
Alex, I've got you here in a minute. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Just one
Well,
point.
and what Alex is saying too, you're talking about the people that Big Shot Bob got to play with.
Yeah.
Who'd Oakley play with? Played with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he played with Patrick Ewing and
I
some
do
of
believe
those
he played.
guys.
I do believe he played with 2 top 10 players on your list, Ray,
Yeah.
and he couldn't win a championship.
Well,
2 top 10. You're talking about the number 1 player on your list and what the number 9 player on your list, number 7 player on your
Okay,
list.
and he also went against who I just mentioned, the baddest center of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, yeah, but Olajuwon wasn't winning championships at that point.
They beat them in the finals, so you can't tell me they didn't win a championship at that point.
What?
The Knicks and the Rockets were in the
Yeah, we're
final.
not talking about the Knicks. We're talking about the Bulls.
I'm talking about the Knicks.
But that's not 2 top 10 players. We're talking about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
I'm talking about Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing is a top 10 player all time.
No, top 10 center of all time.
I just need to
Oh,
reset
it's-
and reestablish
Okay,
what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
I'm saying your number 1 rated player of all time is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like your number 7 all-time player is Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
He played with both of those at the same time and couldn't win a title, even though he was doing all these great and wonderful things.
It was a coaching thing there.
All right. I feel like I always defend Ray, and that's not really my point.
You don't agree that Charles Oakley is a top 50 player.
No, I do not think he's a top 50 player. I
So-
said that like 4 times.
So,
But-
yeah, I know. But stop defending it.
We both know Scottie Pippen wasn't very good when Charles Oakley was there.
They won the title the year they traded him.
Yeah, because look at his stats. He did much, much better. Alex, I'm not sitting here saying Charles Oakley is God himself. I'm just saying
He's a
Scottie
role player.
Pippen slowly got better year to year.
They changed the coach
and
and they
that's how-
traded Oakley.
They actually did change the coach, actually.
So the
and
whole coaching scenario was
Scottie Pippen.
over. They
And Scottie
took
Pippen,
like they said in the Last Dance. They took the ball out of Jordan's hand every time and spread it around. What if Oakley was still there and they spread it around the whole time too?
Pippen didn't have a migraine.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm
maybe-
not. These are just really just things. Like I'm not sitting here saying
Okay,
you're wrong,
so
Alex. I'm
here's
just
my
saying
thing. Here's
these
my
are actually
thing.
things that happen.
No, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong because I refuse to believe it.
I agree
but,
with you.
n- there's not a single power forward on anybody's list here that I wouldn't take over Charles Oakley, and I don't honestly know how you're gonna convince me that Charles Oakley is better than any of these guys because they're all head and shoulders above him in almost everything they do. Guys that we just talked about Pau Gasol being weak a couple weeks ago, and he rebounds as much as Charles Oakley in some seasons or their career at least.
But could he match up against Oakley?
But what is Paul Gasol going to do? Just turn around and shoot over top of him and score on him?
I don't know about all that.
He's 7 foot tall and Charles Oakley's 6'8". What's Oakley going to do about it?
Probably depends on rule sets.
Depends on what era they're
Oakley,
playing.
Oakley's
There
going to
you
give
go,
him a
yeah.
couple rebounds to the ribs, and you're going to second guess doing that shot again.
I mean, maybe, but all that means is you can't play with Pau Gasol, so you're going to beat him up. That's all that means. I'm not as talented as you, so I'm going to hurt you.
Well, no, that's not what
That
it means.
was
It
the
means you
80s
have to
and 90s.
change your game a little bit and figure out a different scenario to how you're going to play.
You really think Charles Oakley's better than Pau Gasol?
Yeah.
Then why don't what does he do better than Pau Gasol? What?
Better rebounding, better
Why?
defense.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
How does he a better defender than Pau Gasol? What did he do defensively that was better than Pau Gasol? Because he's not a better shot blocker, and that's what we want big men to do.
Yeah, because actually Oakley's career rebounds are 9.2 and so are Gasol's. And blocks, Oakley doesn't have hardly any blocks, and Gasol's like 1.6, and he almost doubles in the points. And I know, like Wade said, where there's intangibles, but still we've got to be able to measure something.
Pau Gasol is the second best player on 2 championship teams. They were asking Oakley to be the 3rd or 4th or 5th best player on a championship team. Like, that should say something right there. What they're even asking you to do, what they think you can accomplish. I mean, obviously, I don't have Rodman on my list. I believe you do, correct?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Rodman's head and shoulders above Oakley.
Mhm.
I think Rodman is
Yeah.
is a very similar player, just better at it.
I mean, I can kind of see that. But I have to, the way I did mine is I have to match up people. And I put them against, okay, Oakley versus this person, or Oakley against that person. And I put Oakley against Rodman, and Oakley's a better offensive player than Rodman, so Oakley's got to go ahead of Rodman. Or Oakley's a better defender than somebody, so he's got to go ahead of this person. And that's how I did my list, not only by stats and not by, hard work. You have to do by matchups and what this matchup and this matchup, is that going to work? Is he better at this matchup or what?
So what are we like? I'm using Pau Gasol because he's on my list. He's not the end all be all of power forwards, obviously, but what is like? Okay, so Oakley's a great defender, and he's gonna elbow Pau Gasol in the ribs so he can't score on him. What's Oakley gonna do on the offense of the floor against Pau Gasol?
He can still pop out at the elbow and shoot jumpers.
Over Pau Gasol?
Yeah.
Then why didn't he do it when he was playing?
What do you mean? He did it all the time.
No, he didn't. He couldn't score. He's a career triple single. He's a career average of 9 points a game. Hitting one or two jumpers every once in a while doesn't make you a jump shooter.
No. Dude, that's true. But he could still score when he was asked upon. It's not like he was Dennis Rodman and just didn't score at all. Like, this dude could actually shoot the ball.
If maybe I'm not. I don't know. Maybe somebody else should talk because I.
Look, I know I'm not going to convince you. You've already got it in your head, but this is the dude I put on my list, and I'm fighting tooth and nail for this man right now.
I agree. You should fight for your list. I'm not. Obviously, we wouldn't have an episode if you didn't fight for your guy.
Right.
But that being said, I get it that what Wade's point was good, but I can't argue with you about things we can't see. He doesn't have any hardware. He doesn't have any rings. He couldn't even make the All-Star team, which is easy in most in the NBA for the most part. He's not All-NBA, which means he was never a top 6 forward in the NBA at any given time of his 19-year career. He's a career triple single. Honestly, this is the way I look at it. The onus of convincing people is on you because all the facts back me up.
And that's cool. I mean, we know the stat line, we know the titles, we know everything, but I can't not go down with the ship with this guy, with him, with the no stat and the stuff you can't see, because you might win championships by scoring, and we can see that on stat line, but he does the stuff that, if he was on a different team or a different scenario, he'd be winning a title. But you don't see that kind of garbage play, diving for balls, kind of shoving a person on the side and getting that rebound. But he did the hard work so you could score the three, or he did the hard work so you could score the ball.
I think every team needs that guy. I mean, obviously, everybody knows I'm a Laker fan, and back in the day, Kurt Rambis, I mean, he was the guy that was always on the floor, had the floor burns, everything else.
The dirty
now,
worker.
Again, not as good as Charles Oakley. I'm not trying to say
Right.
that.
No, that's fine.
But every team needs that guy. But I don't think that guy is one of our top 50.
Okay.
I don't think that guy is one of the best players of all time.
We do have two players to talk about, so maybe we should make our closing statements.
I just have two. I have two questions real quick for the group. First off, and this is a legit question: could Charles Oakley play today?
Like right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Obviously not as a 50-year-old man. I mean, could we take
No,
prime
I
Charles
get what
Oakley
you're
and
saying.
drop him in today's NBA?
I think that there would be some problems with as rough as he played, because a lot of the guys in that time period
Yeah.
that were as physical as he was are going to get a lot of fouls. There's going to be a lot of problems.
I think this is the only era he couldn't play in because it's so soft.
No, I can agree with that one.
He would
I can
foul
take
out.
that one.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I don't think he could play today either. Big men today are asked to block shots and roll to the rim.
Oh,
He
he's
wasn't
6'8".
solid at either
That's
one
not
of
gonna
those.
happen.
And his physical play would be they would kick him out of the league. I mean, that's the type of things he did in the 90s we thought were normal. Today they'd be like, get the hell out.
But
Yeah.
he could play in every other era. I
Yeah,
think.
probably.
Yeah.
But now, no.
But here's my last question, and this is again a question I don't even have it written down. I just thought of it off the top of my head. What's the difference between Charles Oakley and Tristan Thompson?
Probably eras.
What is title?
What?
What is title?
I mean, he has a title.
Yeah.
I mean, Tristan Thompson does. But I mean, like, as a player, I feel like they're very similar players.
One.
Are we going to talk about
One
Tristan
has
Thompson?
a championship, one doesn't. Probably.
No, I
Yeah,
get
but
that.
I
That's not
think-
what I'm talking about.
yeah.
I'm saying if Tristan Thompson does this for 4 more years, are we going to put him in the top 50? Because they're the same player. They're a hustle, physical, undersized big man
True.
that plays defense and rebounds.
It's a good comparison, actually. That's a
And they
good
put up very
comparison.
similar stats.
Yeah.
They don't score a lot, and they rebound and play defense, but don't block shots.
But I don't think Tristan Thompson has made that big of an impact as Charles Oakley had. I think Tristan Thompson's big impact was him dating a Kardashian and it being on the news.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but I'm just saying he did the dirty work. He did the hustle plays and did all those things, and won a championship that way, and has made a 10-year NBA career that way, or however long he's been in the league. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And LeBron loved him so much as his dirty role player that he held the Cavs hostage to get him $80 million.
I don't know if I would have did that if I was LeBron, but I mean,
I wouldn't have either. I'm just saying.
No.
I wouldn't hold a team hostage to give Oakley $80 million either.
Well, no. But I mean, I don't see the comparison between Thompson and Oakley,
Why not?
because Oakley was a whole lot more physical and did a whole lot more garbage than Thompson ever
Well,
did.
he's more physical, yes, but we all just agreed that if you're that physical in today's NBA, they won't let you play.
I mean, that's true.
So Thompson just had to,
But
or has to be today's player, otherwise you can't play
but
and make your $80 million.
I've never seen Thompson ever hustle as hard as Oakley ever had.
How do you measure hustle, man? If you dive on the floor and play hard and work hard, I don't know. I don't know how you measure that.
I think we're at a stalemate. I think we need to do closing statements and move on to Mark Jackson.
All right, Wade, go ahead then.
Well, I think I was actually more on Ray's side than everybody else. I just wanted to state the fact that there are players that do a lot of important things that don't show up on a stat sheet, and I think Charles Oakley is one of those players. I think he was actually very important. He was on a lot of teams that actually challenged Michael Jordan, and he was a key part of that. But he's obviously not on my top 50. But I do think he was a really good player. He was the ultimate enforcer, unless he could probably challenge like Bill Laimbeer or what was that other guy's
Rick
name?
Mahorn.
Rick Mahorn. There you go. That's what I was thinking
Lambeer
of.
is a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of what's made him the enforcer. He was a cheap shotter. But either way, that's not important. But I honestly really always liked Charles Oakley because everyone was scared of him. It was kind of funny. I've watched interviews about that stuff. It was really cool. But he's just not in my top 50. I just don't think he was quite. Just didn't quite get there. He had his what's the word I'm looking for?
Considerations.
Yeah, he had things he was very good at, but I think overall he just wasn't quite there. As far as he combined stats and he combined accomplishments, and he was very good at things that don't show up on a stat sheet. But that kind of really was what he was good at. And to a certain extent, stats are important and accolades are important at times. So, I like Charles Oakley. He just didn't make my list, but
Drew, what you got?
Well, for my closing statement, I just want to compare Charles Oakley to Dennis Rodman. I see them as pretty similar players. They're both kind of like enforcers on their teams. They both kind of play the same role. Charles Oakley was he scored a little bit more than Dennis Rodman, 2 more points. But like Ray said earlier, Charles Oakley rebounded more than Rodman. But maybe that's because he played longer than Rodman. He played 371 more games. He only got 251 more rebounds. If Dennis Rodman plays that many more games, he's going to get at least 1 rebound, so he's going to pass him. So that's why I put Rodman on the list. He's my only role player on my list. If he played longer at that level that he was capable of and wasn't a head case with all his other problems like we know Rodman has, then I think Charles Oakley just isn't there. Rodman's the only role player on my list. Other than that, I got nothing else to say.
Uncle Doug?
Well, like I said just a couple minutes ago, I look at Charles as kind of like a hockey enforcer. He was one of those guys that did the dirty work. He did. Every team needs one. If you're going to win a championship, you need that guy that dives on the floor, that plays the extra hard defense, that does what it takes. But I don't necessarily think those role players, while Charles Oakley is a good player, I don't think he's an elite player. And if you're going to be top 50 all time, I think you really have to be more elite.
Obviously, I've been the main
villain.
The villain.
You're
in
the
this
villain,
episode.
big
I guess
boy.
I'm the villain in every episode. But I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I really believe everything I said. Not only do I not think Charles Oakley belongs on this list, I don't think he belongs on the top 100 list. And I just I can't get there. Maybe I do look at stats too much, or things
Why
that are
that?
measurable too much, or winning too much. I can wrap my head around those things. I can't wrap my head around things I can't count or see. So I guess you're probably right, Ray. I'm never going to be able to wrap my head around this, and I have made up my mind. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
What you got, Ray?
Now, and I get it. You can see stats and say titles. That's things you can see, is things you can measure. But I mean, it also takes other people doing other things to get your people free for a jump shot. Free down the lane, setting the picks. You have to have a guy like that on your team. And it's pretty sacrilege for me to fight for a Nick player, for me being a Pacers fan this hard. But I liked his play. My whole list is comprised of physical guys, pretty much. And I gotta fight for the guy. Charles Oakley's my guy.
I realize we said we're wrapping this up, but I have a question. You saying Pacers Knicks thing? Why Oakley and not Dale Davis?
I just think Oakley played tougher. And people in Indiana, if they ever hear this podcast, are probably going to find me and shoot me in the street. But, Dale Davis had his days. But I just thought Oakley was a way better player.
Charles Oakley was a badass.
He still is a badass. You see all the security it took to get him out of the garden?
He's a badass. Like, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bad boy.
Or not the guard. Master.
No, he got kicked out of the garden.
Yeah.
At like 50-something years old.
Well, actually, I've got one more thing to say. It's hard for me to put someone in the top 50 if they're not a Hall of Famer. With all the people they let in the Hall of Fame, it's hard for me to put them on my list. I agree.
That's true.
All right. Well, now that we wrap up Ray's boy Charles Oakley, let's move into our second part of the episode with our second player of the week, Mark Jackson. The 6'1", 180-pound point guard who played for the New York Knicks, Los Angeles Clippers, Indiana Pacers, yes, Ray's Indiana Pacers, Denver Nuggets, Toronto Raptors, Utah Jazz, and Houston Rockets. He never won a title or an MVP award. He is also a one-time All-Star, zero-time All-NBA. He won Rookie of the Year, and all this in 17 years in the NBA after being drafted 18th overall. His career averages of 9, 3, and 8 on 44% shooting. So, Ray, you're up again, and this is your one of your boys from the Pacers, so I'm interested.
All right, here we go. I just want to point out before I start, he also played with Charles Oakley on the Raptors. So, yeah. Anyway, the definition of a point guard is Mark Jackson. One of the nastiest passers in the game. He played the game with style, flair, and full of charisma. He wasn't there to score, he was there to make sure you scored. Innovator of the teardrop, his post-game was off the charts for someone who played point guard. He played the post like a big man. He's notorious for backing down opponents for an excessive amount of time. The NBA then had to institute a rule change for backing down opponents, calling it the Mark Jackson rule. He was also a damn good defender, 32nd on an all-time steals list. He is also 30th on an all-time triple-doubles list with 18. You might not be a fan of New York or Indiana or even Mark Jackson, but you should be a fan of the game. You can't deny this man couldn't play. You can't deny this man could play at another level, higher than anyone else, and that's why he's on my top 50.
All right, thanks, Ray.
You're welcome.
I'm going to try not to dominate the negative here on this guy, and but that means you guys are going to have to talk. So, Drew, what's up?
Well, I really don't know much about Mark Jackson, but looking at his stats at 9, 3, and 8, which is 8 for assists for a point guard, I think is pretty good. And only having one All-Star appearance, but if he was no All-NBA, then he wasn't one of the top point guards at any of his years at point guard then. And he played 17 years.
Oh, all right.
I'll go. I'll go next.
Okay.
I think Mark Jackson was actually a very good traditional point guard. I think a lot of times right now you see a lot of guys that are listed as point guard that pass about four times a game. and then just jack stuff up, or only dish it out to if they're triple teamed, and dish out to someone who's wide open. Mark Jackson is actually a very traditional point guard. He actually set people up. He threw them the ball. I believe he's top 10 all time in assists. I could be wrong.
He's fourth.
Number 4.
No, that's very impressive. I like Mark Jackson, but I think we run into the same brick wall that ran into Charles Oakley. We just lack total accomplishments, stats. Good player. I just don't think he's a great player. I give him credit for being a traditional point guard, because I think a lot of point guards today are. I think being a traditional point guard is actually very important. I look at Chris Paul, and I think that is very, very valuable to be able to run an offense and dictate a pace and do all that. And Mark Jackson was one of those players. He was very good at it. I think he ran up a lot of. Am I wrong? When they played, the Pacers played the Bulls. Was that 98 or 97?
I want to say 98.
When they took them to Game 7, he was the point guard, correct?
Yes.
And Michael Jordan does say that is the toughest matchup he had. It wasn't the Jazz. It wasn't the Suns from the years past. It wasn't the Blazers or Lakers or whoever. It was Reggie Miller and Mark Jackson and Rick Smits and
Jalen. I think Jalen was there at the time.
Yeah, I think he was the leading scorer.
Well, I know Jalen was there the year they went to the finals against the Lakers.
Right. Yeah.
He was there. He was there with Larry Bird. Larry Bird was the coach, and Larry Bird used to ride.
Yeah, but that
Jalen
was against the Lakers, though. I'm not saying I don't
No.
think he was there for the
No,
Bulls.
Jalen Rose was there for 98.
Oh, he was. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
My bad.
Because that was Larry Bird's first year, second year as coach.
Yeah,
And he-
first year.
And
Because he only coached for like 3
brings him
years.
back.
Yeah.
They show it in the Last Dance because Michael Jordan talks shit to him.
Yeah, you're right.
He's like,
you're
"Hey,
right.
fuck you," and then walks on by or like something like that. But so I mean, Mark Jackson was the lead guard on the team that came the closest to defeating Michael Jordan in his second three-peat. So I mean, that's there's something to say to that. But I think he's good. He's a very good traditional point guard. But I just don't find him great, if that makes sense.
I would agree with that assessment. I mean, Mark Jackson was a physical, tough point guard. He could pass well. But if you're going to go 8 assists, which is what he averaged for his career, in part he's number 4 on the list, I think, because of 17 years. I mean, that's at least part of it. But if you're going to go 8 on the assists, you need to add a little more. Because if you look at some of the guys that we're going to be talking about later when we get to point guards, you know, Magic is like 11, Oscar Robertson 9.5, John Stockton 10.5, Isaiah Thomas 9.3, Steve Nash 8.5.
A lot of those guys have more accomplishments too.
Right, and they scored more.
Yeah.
If Mark averaged his 8 and averaged 15, 16, 18 points, I think he'd be there. But if you're going to be just a pass first, I think you need more than 8. A lot of guys, I mean, we don't really consider Russell Westbrook a typical point guard.
No.
But he's averaging 8.3 for his career.
Yeah.
And it's not just a 3 or 4 year career. Russell's been around 10, 12 years.
Yeah, very true.
And so I was surprised. I really thought when I saw his assists, I thought it'd be higher than that, especially when I saw the number 4 on the list. But if you're this again, we're talking stats, but you've got to balance that. If you're going to go pass only, then you got to be one of the top guys assist wise, and I'm thinking average, not just total. Not that I don't like him. I mean, he was a good point guard. I enjoyed watching him play. I loved watching
He was really good
him with Reggie and them, but I just don't think he's in my top 50.
I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, and you can say a lot of the same things about Jackson you said about Oakley. He's not in the Hall, so it's hard for me to wrap my head around top 50. Again, he's a career triple single, and with the All-NBA, they don't single out point guard and shooting guard with All-NBA. They just put 2 guards in. So that really means at no point during his 17-year career was he one of the best 6 guards in the NBA?
Can I ask a question? Has it always been that way? Has it really only been to spin 2 guards?
I don't know. So that
Right.
maybe at that time maybe they didn't do it.
No,
that
I
way.
don't know.
I really don't either.
I'm really asking. I found that very curious. Did they always just do just 2 random guards, or just a point guard or a shooting guard? Because I feel like that's kind of not fair to the point guards who pass, and the guys average 25 a game.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as game, I think his comparison is John Stockton. They didn't score a lot. They passed a lot. And
He didn't play with Carmelo, though.
no, he didn't. You're 100% right. I'm just saying, like, he's a pass first point guard and he has a bunch of All NBAs.
But John Stockton had 10.5 assists
That's also
instead of 8,
And also
and
played for a very long
13
time.
points instead of 9. That's why I'm saying no to Jackson, yes to Stockton.
The other thing is we talk about your Pacers. When the Pacers finally seemed to unlock their team and made those deep runs with Bird as their coach, it was because they took the ball out of Mark Jackson's hands and put it in Jalen Rose's hands, and Jalen Rose ran the offense. That's a huge knock to Mark Jackson's steady hand point guard role. They just essentially put him on the block with that wide ass of his. That was the big surprise on his Basketball Reference page to me, was that they listed him at 180. That was the biggest surprise of all to me.
When you said that, I'm like, no way. He had to weigh more than
He's
180.
big now.
Yeah, well, he's huge now. I bet he weighs 280 now. Not that I'm fat shaming here. Sorry.
I actually kind of thought of him as a. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I kind of thought of him as a Rajon Rondo, when surrounded with a lot of talent, was able to put up a lot of assist numbers and could rebound and play some defense. And then when surrounded by less talent, still put up good passing numbers, not great passing numbers, but could fade here and there. Good player, not great player. Always a great passer. Just depends on, but passing depends on who you're around. Let's not act like, you can't just pass to anybody. But that's who I thought. Rajon Rondo was a very good point guard, and he's not an all-time great point guard. Mark Jackson, I thought the same way. When he's surrounded with Reggie Miller, Jalen Rose, Davis brothers, Ron Mercer, shit like that, was a lot of assists, especially in the 90s. That's pretty impressive. But then,
What year did he lead? Was it 96, 97? He led the NBA in assists.
I don't
Yes,
know. but
96, 97 when
I
he was
actually
assist
looked him
champ.
up. His rookie season was actually extremely impressive, and it might have been his best season. His rookie season was very good.
I
Actually.
have
Yeah,
that
he was
written
rookie
down
of the
here.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have that written down. That I
He
thought
was
his
very
rookie, rookie season was his best season.
That's what I thought. I looked
It's like 17 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and on 46%.
Yeah, he averaged over 10.5 assists a game and 13 points. That's great. He was a very good passer that played for a long time, I think.
I think I just read the stats off from his second year in the league, not the first. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, 69 was second year.
Yeah, rookie year was like 13 and 10.5.
I did read at the beginning though that he did win Rookie of the Year.
I think he was a really good passer that played for a long time.
which also
And
led to him being
yeah.
having one of the highest turnover all time. I mean, lots of guys that play with the ball in their hand have a shitload of turnovers. I mean, John Stockton and LeBron James are like second and third all time in turnovers. So I mean, I get it, but it led to the same problem with him. Like I said, I'm not gonna dominate this with a bunch of stuff. I feel a lot of the same reasons I do about Oakley. I like Jackson as a player. I rooted really hard for the Pacers against the Lakers in the finals that year. I really liked Jalen Rose at the time, and Reggie. I loved Reggie. Choking Michael and all that stuff. That stuff was awesome. So I really did root for that team, even though I was a kid at the time. I'm trying to think of how old I was. That was what, 98 we decided? So I was like 11.
Yeah.
I guess I'm showing my age here. I don't have a problem with Mark Jackson. I think he was a solid player. He had a great career, not great, but a good career. And I wouldn't mind having him being the point guard on my basketball team. I like traditional pass first point guards personally. We'll probably find that out when you learn more about my point guard list. But I just don't think Mark Jackson makes the cut due to most of the reasons we've said so far.
Are we going to just consider that your closing statement and move on?
Sure.
Okay, Uncle Doug, you want to go?
Yeah. Again, like Mark Jackson, I was not rooting for him against the Lakers, but I still like him.
Why
not? Because I'm a Laker fan. But he just didn't make my list because if you're going to be pass first, I think the assists have got to be higher than that.
I'll go next for my closing statement. Of course, I wasn't alive yet when Mark Jackson, they were talking about all this, but if Mark Jackson going to be a pass first point guard, then I think his assists has to be in the double digits. And yes, he's in top 5 all time in assists, but I just think it's got to be more. He got Rookie of the Year, so I think he's kind of in the same category as Charles Oakley is. He's one of those role players that he went to a lot of different teams, but he never really found a spot where he shined really brightly. And he never really got many accolades, and his points and stuff weren't as high as some of the other point guards, and he's not in the Hall of Fame like Charles Oakley. So I just don't see how he's a top 50 player of all time.
What do you mean? I like Mark Jackson. I would even go as far as saying I think Mark Jackson is one of the best passers probably maybe in NBA history. But the problem is after that, you don't really get much after that. He didn't really score a lot, didn't really rebound a lot, didn't really accomplish a lot, didn't win a championship. He was a really good he was a great, I would say a great passer. But as far as that, I think that's about as much as I can say. I like Mark Jackson, great passing point guard, traditional point guard, but he's not my top 50.
Well, Ray, you've been quiet for a while. What you got, man?
Now, I understand what everybody's saying, the stat line again, but every team needs a setup guy. Mark Jackson was probably one of the best setup guys of all time. Now, you got Russ in the present day as a point guard, but is he really a point guard, though?
Not really.
No.
We'll get into that in the
Shooting
Russell
guard.
Westbrook episode.
And we can look at John Stockton. He was what? A passer as well. I mean, he might scored a little bit more than Jackson, but they were kind of on the same level. And we got Isaiah Thomas. What did he score a game?
I don't know, a lot.
17, 18 points a game.
Isaiah was 9.3 assists and 19.2 points.
Okay.
There you go.
So, I mean, you got point guards that pass, and they got point guards that score. Mark Jackson was kind of, touching the line in between. Now, he kind of impacted the game differently for me because he's more flamboyant and charismatic. And he kind of brought, a different kind of spectacle to his game. Not like Dennis Rodman, but he gave his own flair, and that kind of showed out for me. Besides, being a passer, he kind of had something different to offer the game.
Let me ask you this, Ray. I noticed on your list you have Mark Jackson ahead of Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, I do.
Why?
Oh my.
I just feel like Mark Jackson's more of a point guard than Isaiah Thomas is.
How?
How? Because he played the position as a point guard. Isaiah Thomas played it more of a shooting guard.
But he averaged more assists a game than Mark Jackson.
Yeah, and doesn't LeBron James average probably more assists than Mark Jackson? And he plays, power forward?
I mean, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, yeah.
So, I mean, you can score more assists at different positions. It doesn't have to be point guard. But being a
Fair.
point guard, that is your main goal, is to set up the other guy to score. You're out there to set up the offense and pass the ball to the other guy.
So let me ask you this. Mark Jackson played on some bad teams in his career. Not all the time, but some. If it was possible for him to do what Isaiah Thomas did, why didn't he do it in those years and make his team good?
Because he's not a scorer like that. That wasn't his deal. He was the traditional point guard who set you up to score.
Okay, fair enough. I'm done.
Okay.
Is that all you got, Ray? You need something else for us?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, guys, I know it was a little bit longer one, but we just knocked out 2 players in 1 week. We're signing off for the week, and we appreciate your listen.
What about trivia, Alex?
Holy cow.
Wow, slipping, bro.
I apologize. Everybody. Yeah, it's trivia time. It's trivia time.
I say we can't be forgetting trivia.
Drew hasn't spoken in 2 episodes, and he's like, hey, trivia!
He's ready
Got
tonight.
done talking about Mark Jackson. What do you mean?
All right, so who wants to go first with the trivia?
I go. All right. Keeping in the theme of point guards, who has the most 20 assist games in NBA history?
I'm going to guess John Stockton.
God.
A lot of silence, guys.
Yeah.
Westbrook.
God, 20 assist games.
I'll probably go with John Stockton also.
Yeah, let's go with John Stockton.
The answer is John Stockton with 38. Magic came in second with 31, and then there was a big drop-off to the next guy. But, yeah, John Stockton.
So, me, Drew, and Ray got that one?
Yep, we did.
Who's next?
Oh, you want to go?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I got my question.
Okay.
What is the lowest seed to win an NBA title?
Ouch.
Do we say the seed or the team?
Just the seed, 1 through 8.
I'll say 6.
I was leaning toward actual 6, actually.
I'll go 7.
Right?
I'm going to go with 4.
It is 6. The Houston Rockets did it.
Ooh.
So me and Alex got it?
Yep.
Alright, I think I got a trivia. How you good, Alex? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is number 8 all time in assists?
I'm going to say LeBron.
Okay.
That's a really good guess. I was just looking at this list the other day. I'm trying to run through my head.
I was looking at it the other day while we were looking research for this, and saw Mark at 4, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
He's 4.
I'm going to say... Oh, man. Kuzi.
Okay.
I'll go with Isaiah Thomas.
Okay.
I'm going to go with LeBron with Ray. It's a pretty
Everybody?
good guess.
It is LeBron James.
So
8th all
that was
time.
Ray and Drew?
Yeah.
Just under 9,500.
Go ahead.
Actually
Okay.
barely beating Chris Paul.
All right. My question is, which NBA player holds the record for most consecutive games played?
Consecutive games played. Wow. I'm going to say Robert Parrish.
Oh, boy. That's...
I'll go Parrish. I know I played a fuck ton of games.
Go ahead. Do you know Drew?
I'll just go with Parrish because everyone else.
I'll say Reggie Miller, just to be different.
All right. So everybody said Parrish except for Doug.
Correct.
Okay. So the correct answer is AC Green.
Oh man, I should have known that.
1,192
Huh.
than any other player in NBA history.
All right.
Who was second?
Good question.
Was Parrish even close?
It doesn't say. It just had some options. It had Robert Ory, Randy Smith, or John Sally was the choices I got. But I mean, it doesn't give any stats.
Bunch of bench players.
But AC Green, yeah.
Sorry, I was paying attention. Nobody got that right, correct?
No.
Right. All right. So, my trivia question is, before Kareem, who was the NBA's all-time leading scorer?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'd go with Wilt.
Yeah, I think it's Wilt.
Make it 4.
It was Will.
Gotcha, baby.
All right. We needed a point here.
I was never thinking, like, who the fuck was really good way back in the
I
day?
was thinking maybe
In
Elvin
the
Hayes.
All right. So that's everybody, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So the scores after week 6 are Ray with 6, Alex with 11, or I'm sorry, Doug with 9, Alex with 11, Wade with 12, and Drew with 13.
Oh, Drew.
I think he's just piggybacking off all our right answers, and that's how it got.
I mean, I literally was the first one to say Will. I feel like I should get 2 points for that.
All right, now we're signing off for week 6.
There you go.
We appreciate your listen, and we'll be back next week to discuss Chris Bosch.
Oh, there you go.
I know, craziness. And we will see you next week.